Wild Health is about optimizing you. We use genomics, blood work, biometrics, microbiome assessment, many other tests, and a conversation with you to come up with a full health optimization plan. What's the perfect diet, exercise, and supplement plan for you and only you? The Wild Health podcast is about optimizing all of us. Here we cover the cutting-edge science that gives you the base to be able to apply the personalized plan we give you as a patient. To sign up as a patient, go to wildhealth.com. Or if you're a physician or health coach and you want to learn how to do this for your patients, we're happy to help as well. Wildhealth.com for all the information on becoming a patient or working with us.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wild Health Podcast. I'm Dr. Jeff Graham, one of the physicians at Wild Health, joined today by Trey Tackett, one of our all-star health coaches, who's been kind enough to jump in with a couple patients. And we've got a special episode today. Two guys that I've gotten really fond of over the course of 2024 who are patients and agreed to join us to kind of tell their story. And talk about their experience at Wild Health. And we don't get to do this often, so it's really a pleasure to have these guys. I'm super psyched to interview you guys and actually learn more about you after reading some of your bios. There's some stuff in here I didn't know, so I'm getting ready to put you on the spot for a few things. So get ready. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So we're joined by Kylie Green and Jeremy Corbett today. These guys are two of our patients that are actually in our premium health program. And I hope, or I like to think, they've had a good experience so far. So I guess we'll learn that during the podcast today. Start out with Kylie. Kylie is these guys run a big construction company down outside of Atlanta, and it's been really interesting getting to know them and what all their life is composed of. But for Kylie specifically, it sounds like you grew up in a construction family in Atlanta, which then led you to an architectural degree. Worked as an architect for 15 years. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah.
Concentration in warehouse, light industrial, manufacturing stuff. Then worked with your father a little bit in a commercial painting company. It was during this time that you earned the Georgia Commercial General Contractor license and decided 5 years later to hook up with with Jeremy, to follow this passion and launch what Core Construction in 2015. You guys sound like, I didn't know this about you guys. So you're in Georgia, but it sounds like you also expanded the vision, opened a second office in Savannah to provide the similar services down there. And it looks like you are outside of the business that we talk about a lot in our visits and how stressful that can be. I know you enjoy spending time with your family, and your boxer blue. And it sounds like you're active in the church and you really enjoy the outdoors, which we've definitely heard a lot about from you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And thanks Jeff for the brief intro there. This is Trey. I've been working with both Jeremy and Kylie, and in conjunction with Jeff, it's been a great experience. We have a good relationship. We're all from the Southeast of the United States and have that in common. We've all kind of bonded over our love for nature and all Southern things, whether it's foods that we should or shouldn't eat and activities that we all enjoy. But Jeremy, he's a similar story to Kylie's there as far as a history of, growing up in a construction family, real estate, going through getting a bachelor's. You went to LSU, right?
LSU, right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can forgive you for that as a Kentucky Wildcat fan, but there's not too much of a rivalry there. I feel like we're all similar people.
That's right. We'll beat you in football. Y'all beat us in basketball.
Yeah. That's a fair trade. We'll take it every day. And then, you guys started Core together, and I think the rest is history. You've been hugely successful, and now it's time, I think, for you guys, as you were successful in business, to really switch over and start focusing on your health. And I think that's where I'm maybe most interested in starting the conversation with you guys is, any commentary about maybe how your health and wellness was impacted by your upbringing, by the business you were in, by the geographic location, and then what led you to kind of seeking a change in your approach to your health and your health care. So Jeremy, I'll kind of kick that one to you to start.
Yeah. So as you stated, I got my bachelor's from LSU. So I'm born and raised Louisiana guy, and anybody that knows too much about Louisiana knows that we've got quite the menu when it comes to food. Between New Orleans and a lot of the other places. So it's gumbo and etouffee, and everything's fried, and everything's pretty much about getting together and having fun with family and friends, and eating and drinking. And so that was kind of how I was brought up. And it ended up in Atlanta, and so it was sort of a little bit of a transition for me, going somewhere that was the culture was really kind of totally different, and it really wasn't quite the same in terms of health and activities and being active and all that. So so that was a little bit of a transition. But Kylie and I, for I guess a while now, have been trying to figure out, or really kind of just talking about wanting to get together with somebody to put a team together. And we always, every time we talk about it, we were always kind of saying, hey, we want to try to find sort of a team. And it was all really kind of based around longevity and health and wellness, but really longevity, as he and I are what we kind of feel like we're sort of in the middle part of our career, and we still kind of got the end of the puzzle yet to put together. And so as we're planning all that stuff out, we do a lot of kind of long-term planning, trust planning and business planning, and we're sort of planning for all aspects of our lives, but really leaving the health and wellness piece, the longevity piece out of it. And so our mindset, so as we've evolved into sort of thinking long-term and in terms of all the planning, we really started putting some emphasis on, all right, we've got to really kind of get serious about health and wellness. And, we worked out together for a long time, and, we eat well, and we do a lot of the things right, but the missing component was sort of the science behind it, and support, and the team, and, the advisory sort of function. And so we didn't have any of that. And so that's really kind of what kicked us off. And we started looking around and talking to some different people, and, looking for folks that could kind of advise us that in a direction of some people that could help. And then I guess just through doing that research, we came about Wild Health, and got in touch and started kind of digging in, and really liked what we heard kind of out of the gate.
Yeah. I mean, when Jeremy moved back over here to Georgia from LSU, we kind of got connected again and started the companies, and we would see a lot of the same doctors, general practitioners, and our biggest complaint was just, it seems like from the surface, just outside looking, really not even looking in, but just kind of maybe a little bit of blood work, a little bit of urine work, and then, hey, let me put this on you, and here you're breathe in, breathe out. But we always felt like it wasn't enough. Like Jeremy had mentioned, we surround ourselves with advisors that help us with businesses and mergers and acquisitions, and how to, our tax advice, all aspects of what we do in the world we live in business. But this piece, we just felt like wasn't there. We needed to add that to the team. So we sought after, and I remember having this conversation with Jeremy. I was like, man, I want somebody that can go deeper. Like you look at the Life Force book, or any of the precision concierge type stuff, and that's what we were searching for. We wanted something that would, kind of get in there and create a baseline for us, but also wrap it with nutrition and ongoing accountability, and having weekly calls and monthly touch bases. So
Yeah.
Actually, Jeremy is the one that did this searching, and I think you found it on just searching the internet.
Yeah.
Came across Wild Health, and here we are.
Yeah, I'll never forget that I had an intro call with Jeremy early on, and you were at the office, and I think I just kept seeing this dude in the background walking by and looking in and going, what's going on? Looking over his shoulder. It turned out to be Kylie, and I think interestingly, Kylie actually ended up signing up before you did,
Yeah.
like a month earlier. Said,
Yeah.
"Hey, this looks pretty cool, man."
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So it's a great origin story for sure.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, for since then, Jeremy and I just share things that we do. We've shared it with, you know, probably a couple of dozen, if not more, people. And it didn't latch on. And I know we'll get to this segment of it, but it didn't latch on until there was really a result that was solved by doing this. And we've had so many people, maybe not necessarily through Wild Health, but they have definitely gone and gotten an MRI or a CT scan. They're like, holy cow, I need to get this done myself. So
Yeah.
we're hoping that this is a little bit of a story that we can tell somewhat evangelical, I guess is the right word.
Yeah.
Just telling the story and getting other people to latch onto it. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely want to get to that too with you guys. I think there's a spoiler alert. There's an interesting ending to this story. But before we do, just kind of thinking through when we got started with you guys as a health coach and a nurse practitioner, what I'm thinking about when I'm talking to somebody at first is, where are they desiring to go? What are their goals? What are they trying to do? What motivates them to do it? But also I'm kind of thinking about where are they deficient, right? Like what areas potentially do they just not have knowledge or resources? What have they not explored yet? And you guys were pretty well-rounded, right? You weren't necessarily easy cases to crack because you have a lot of knowledge even around nutrition. You have good resources. You have supportive family members that help you guys eat healthy on the go. And it's not always easy, right? We've talked about the things that happen when you're out on the road traveling and when you're down for a duck hunt and eating, massively prepared smoked meals. But at the same time, you were well educated. So I think one of the more interesting things was around, learning about your metabolic health. We talked a little bit about wearing a continuous glucose monitor in the early stages. And for either of you guys, was there anything that came of that was maybe shocking, or was there anything that was a benefit that you didn't expect?
Yeah, for sure. I'll take that one. I think actually both Jeremy and I enjoy wearing it when we don't have it on. It's almost like we feel like, man, I'd like put another one of those on, because you just throughout your day you realize what is causing spikes, and you go, and then you start looking at it. Well, of course, it's it's all carbs or it's all sugar. And it starts to really change your mindset on what it is that you put in your body. Some yogurts that I would normally buy and eat and enjoy, all of a sudden get changed out for healthier options. So for me, it's changed a lot of the decisions that I buy at the store. Yeah, I mean the kind of the I guess the tailored aspect of the program is what we love about it, right? And so it kind of speaks to the team aspect, but having folks like you two guys that are really dialed in on what you do, but they really getting to learn who we are and how we live, and where we live, and kind of the lifestyle, and sort of that whole 360 view of who we are. And that's kind of keep getting back a little bit to what Kylie was saying. Previously, you go to the doctor and you get checked out, and it's kind of, hey, here's a pill, or hey, everything's fine, whether and so you're always kind of left sort of wanting a little bit more, right? So I think with this program, I think what we were really seeking was that team aspect, and having folks that were really going to be invested in us as much as we're invested in wanting to have better health. And that's what we found. And so the ability to kind of tailor the program, it's not even, I keep calling it a program, but really kind of tailoring health and wellness for myself, for Kylie, for every other person is really different. And it's just because we're all different people, right? So everybody's got different things they're dealing with. And so, people function differently. People, have different lifestyles. some people exercise, some people, live a sedentary lifestyle. And so there's all different types of programs. And so you got a lot of people out in the world that are, trying to figure out what that magic bullet is and kind of, figure out what that magic pill is, that magic shot to lose some weight or, whatever it may be. At the end of the day, man, they just need to figure out kind of who they are, how they operate, how their body works, how their body, works with foods and all those kinds of things to put that program together. And then you can go live that program out and really amazing things can happen. So that is the one thing that we've been missing for a long time. But I think that's the thing that we really love about Wild Health.
Awesome. Yeah. I think what I hear you saying there is you appreciate the advocacy, but also having the accountability as well. Yeah. And do you feel like
resource having the so like I'm a big research guy and I listen to a ton of podcasts and sort of analytical by nature, and so anytime and we're both sort of forever learning type people, and so anytime we get some new information or we hear a little blurb about something or see a commercial or whatever it might be, we take that information and like, well, is this true or not? Does it work or does it not? Is it effective or is it not? And so having a team of professionals such as yourselves that we can take all that stuff, feed the information to, filter it through you guys, and then get actual real, scientific and results-based responses back from is, it's priceless.
Yeah, I think the majority of the time people, if they go and see a general practitioner, maybe throughout the year, they're saying, unless they're sick and they're just going to go for their physical once a year, they may save up all their questions and try to fire them all off and hopefully get all the answers. One of the things I love about this is whether it's I'm learning something that Jeremy has asked the two of you guys, or during one of my sessions, I can ask it. And it's like, I'm only waiting maybe another 2 weeks before I can ask that question again or ask a new question. So that's a benefit for sure.
Yeah. We like to use the term, like evidence informed medicine. So, not that we read all the literature, try and stay up on that, but what's beautiful, and I think what you guys are acknowledging, is that we're able to, through the precision aspect, actually take a look at what makes you, Jeremy, and you, Kylie, and then apply that when it's appropriate,
for sure, based
on who you are. Yeah. Did you guys feel like, I'm just going back to kind of Trey's question, wanted to ask this because I hear this term a lot in people who've got a busy, successful life. Did you feel like there were some years before you came to us where you were kind of trading health for wealth, really sacrificing your well-being to get where you are today?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think when you just started a business, and we started our business in 2008 and it flopped, and then 5 years later we started it again in 2015. So, but when you start a business, it's 24/7. It's very stressful. 95 to 98% of the businesses start, fail within the first 3 years. And so we were working out. We kind of knew we needed to, stay active so that it just wasn't all work. But yeah, I mean, you just pile on a ton of stress. As we became a little bit more successful, and we were like, hey, we need to pour back into ourselves, or we're not going to make it, for grandkids if we don't kind of look and see and create a baseline and go, okay. I mean, it's kind of scary, when we reached out to you guys and you're like, hey, we're going to do 30 something tests on you. I mean, the results of those tests are, it's kind of like you open up the envelope when you take a test, it's like pass or fail. I think we were both nervous about, hey, is there going to be something that shows up that, I don't want to know. But we were looking at each other going, but we've got it. So, because if we're going to continue to do business and life together, longevity means everything for us.
Yeah. And then what I'll add to that is, when you start a company and, we've started, I don't know, 4 or 5, and, a couple of them hadn't worked and some others have done well. You're wholly focused on that. And while we were doing some exercise and some workouts, because we both have been active for a long time, you really get consumed by it all. And you got family, and you got a lot of things that are going on, kind of competing for your time, and so I think it was finally it took us with, like I was saying earlier, some of this overall planning that we're doing for sort of all the other aspects of our lives to really kind of start thinking, all right, well, we're I'm 47, Kylie's 52, we're kind of in that age profile. It's like, all right, things can, like, when things go wrong, like a lot of times they go wrong sort of in this time frame, and so we're kind of looking at one another and thinking about some of those things, and so I think it just took a little longer for us. We're stubborn like most guys, I guess, and you kind of feel like, hey man, I'm good. I've never had a problem, never gonna have a problem, and that's just how it's gonna be. But you still start to kind of realize that from the time's undefeated, and you gotta pay attention to it a little bit. So
we need to include that as one of our taglines at Wild. Father Time is undefeated. I love that.
Can't outrun it, man. You can't outrun
it. Yeah.
I want to get to a point that you guys brought up there, as far as like that initial testing, and maybe even what sounded like could have been some anxiety around like pass fail. Do we want to find anything, and hear your thoughts on that? Before we do, I'm gonna backtrack for a second and get to another point you just made around kind of prioritizing health. And it's I work with a lot of executives and busy entrepreneurs, and I see how people manage their time and try to allot time differently. And there's a lot of really successful people and being successful in time management, right? But also, successful people that aren't necessarily able to allot the time to their health, their mental well-being, etc. What I know the answer to this for you guys, but I'm curious if you'd share it. Like, how has that changed, or what is your current kind of thought around like where you are allotting your time for nutrition, for physical exercise, for time for you to reset mentally and be in nature, etc.?
Right. Yeah. Jeremy and I made a change probably fairly recently, probably about a year and a half ago, or maybe 2 years ago. And we decided to really try to go, I think it started off with like no calls or anything before 9, and shut it down at 4. We're now kind of committed to 10 to 2 is our business hours. That doesn't mean that we're not, when you're business owners, you're always on, but kind of committing to the morning time until, we'll kind of reconnect around 9:30 or 10, but that's our time to get up, whether it's doing stretching or doing a full workout or meditating or whatever it is. It's more of a time for yourself. And then we jump into the regular work day, and then, family life is important so being able to, for Jeremy to be able to go see wrestling matches or, golf matches or whatever, football with his kids. My kids are older, but there's still activities that I like to do. So that work-life balance has been important for us, but it allows us to get in that health aspect of taking care of ourselves.
Yeah, actually blocking the time out. Yeah, and you hear people when you listen to podcasts, and they're extremely successful people, and they talk about sort of what their schedule is. And some of these guys, you got the Mark Wahlbergs of the world that are like, they go to sleep at 8:15 p.m. so they can get up at 2:45 to start the work and all this stuff. And you always kind of think like, man, how in the world is there time? Can I create the time? Is there a block of time? And it's really not until you actually do it and pull the trigger on it, that you figure out that, it's doable, it's workable, and it fits in with the rest of your life. It fits in with work and family and all those things, but it just has to become a priority. So like Kylie said, for us, it was, we blocked those morning hours out. And it's really kind of hey, like no calls, no meetings, the phone still rings, and we still have, things that come up, but there's no formal meetings, and everybody knows it, and once that's kind of set in stone, it is what it is. Everybody respects it, and it allows you the time to go do what you need to do to make sure you're prioritizing your exercise and wellness.
Yeah. Well, I think you guys have done an excellent job of that, and I admire it. And also, too, just for the listeners, I recently read the book Essentialism by Greg McCowan. I think it's an amazing, dive into what we're talking about here and the ability to set aside time for yourself, and how most things really aren't essential, right? Those 8 a.m. phone calls, text, emails that you responded to, they're going to be there. And it's amazing how much more efficient you are when you've allotted that time for you to have the energy that you need for the time that you're going to start working. So I just suggest that to anybody that's kind of dealing with trying to figure out where to make time and how to get more time out of their day, but also have better energy during the time that you're really trying to work. Jeff, what do you think? You want to hop into maybe that initial diagnostic stuff?
Let's talk about it. But first, I have to ask Jeremy something. Did you just bring up Marky Mark in this podcast? Did you just
Marky
drop
Mark and the
Wahlberg's
Funky
name?
Bunch, man? You remember?
You may be the first person ever to bring Marky Mark into the Wild Health podcast.
Man, you think about all these people that have these crazy schedules. He's one of them. And the other guy that comes to mind is Rob Deerdeck. I don't know if you guys know who he is. Was a professional skateboarder, and now he's self-professed. I'm going to be a multi-billionaire in the next 10 years, and I've got it all scheduled out, and here's my plan. And it's all about being efficient and getting a lot of stuff done in life. So there's some people out there with some pretty extensive programs. Ours are nothing close to those at this point in time, but it just goes to show that it's possible.
Well, you just made my decision. I got to get down there to Alpharetta and hang out with you guys. We'll listen to some old Marky Mark beats for sure.
Bring it on.
Yeah. I think Trey, I think it's a really good time to transition to that. I think Trey already announced a little spoiler alert here. When going back to that idea of kind of being sometimes a little bit scared or anxious to look under the hood a little bit deeper, which I think is what you're referencing, Kylie. Jeremy, tell us a little bit. We looked under your hood and found some stuff that was maybe less ideal than we hoped to find, and maybe you want to share some of your story around what transpired.
So I was, like you said earlier, I was a little behind Kylie on getting started, and so he was starting to do some of the diagnostic stuff before me, and so I kind of knew what was coming because he was telling me, well, I just did this, and then you're probably getting your schedule pretty soon, and so labs and some of the more probably usual things is what I was doing to start out. But pretty quickly we got into the CT scan, and got actually a good buddy of mine I grew up with, graduated high school with, who's a really good cardiologist here in Atlanta, who's actually turned out to be Kylie's cardiologist as well. Is where we both decided to go do the CT work, and he's got some of my history and some of that stuff as well, and because he's really good and he's a great friend, it just made a ton of sense. And so anyway,
real quick for the listener, we're talking about the CT angiogram, right?
CT angiogram
to look for for plaques in the coronary arteries.
Yeah, that's right. So went and did the exam. Actually, the same day I had set up the DEXA scan and the VO2 max. So I went that morning, did the CT angiogram. Went in the afternoon to go do the VO2 max and the DEXA scan. Couldn't do the DEXA because of the dye, but I did the VO2 max and got on the treadmill and kind of maxed out and all that. And then later on that afternoon, my son had a football game. So I went to the football game, went out there with my family, and my phone rings, and it's my cardiologist buddy. And so I looked down and saw his number, man, my heart just sank because I knew, he's not the kind of guy, he just doesn't call right unless there's something to talk about. So I stepped down, took the phone call, and he basically said, "Hey man, I'm showing something. We're showing something on the scan that wasn't there, that we've never seen on your scans before." And he said, "You've got some blockage," and he said, "I don't want to scare you too bad, but it's in your widowmaker." And so of course, anytime you get news like that, you just sort of, I feel like this just, not panic, but just this sort of feeling kind of comes over you, like sort of disbelief, sort of, kind of scared and, not knowing, and all those feelings kind of start to stir. And so as we're sitting there talking about it, he said, "Yeah, man, I it's the widowmaker. We don't play around with the widowmaker." He said, I'm going to get you in, the next day or two for a heart cath. So I went in 2 days later for the heart cath and found out that I had about, I guess it was 60-70% blockage in the widowmaker. And then I actually also had 80% blockage in an artery on the right side. And so as it turned out, the blockage in the widowmaker was in kind of a funky spot, and the way it had collected it inside there, they weren't able to do a stent. And so he informed me that same morning. He's like, "That's more crappy news, man." He said, "You're gonna have to go get a bypass." He said, "But we know a guy here in Atlanta that is really well known that does a robotic bypass that uses an artery instead of a vein, and it's just a less invasive procedure." And was sort of kind of giving me a little bit of an idea, sort of what it was about. He said, "We think that you're a good candidate for that, and I'd like to call him later today, or call him as soon as I can, get him on the phone, and see if we can get you in for an appointment, and see what he thinks about you being a good candidate for that as well." And so anyway, so I had sort of a 2-week kind of whirlwind of, man, I feel, and I wasn't, the crazy thing, and this is what everybody was asking me, like, "Man, were you feeling bad? Did you have chest pain?"
Yeah.
And I really didn't. I was working out, I was lifting, I was, doing cardiovascular work, and I wasn't having shortness of breath and chest pains, really nothing. And so it was a complete shock to me. So kind of, went through that process, found out about it, sort of had to kind of digest it. A little bit of the good news from that was that, it was calcified. And so he was basically like, "Look, man, we've got some time to discuss it. Get you super comfortable, go have a meeting with the surgeon, and, just to make sure that, he feels like you're a good candidate, let you guys meet, let him explain it to you. So you're not emergent." So this is kind of the best case or the worst case, right? So I'm not having to rush in and get something done under sort of an emergency situation. But it was still scary for sure. And so ended up going in and having the robotic bypass here in Atlanta, down at Emory St. Joe's. And he told me during the consult that it was about a 30-day recovery period. And I was like, 30 days? That seems pretty short. And he said, "Yeah, it's typically when you go in and they, cut your sternum, it's, you got 3 or 4 months that you're kind of dealing with pain and the healing and sort of that whole process." He said, "This surgery is going to be more painful than that surgery initially, but pretty quick you start to feel better. And within 30 days, he said, you'll be back, pretty well back to normal life." And just like you said, in my particular case, I actually had a hunting trip, like we were talking earlier. I had a bow hunting trip to Kansas set up for basically it's like 3 or 4 days after that 30-day mark, like to the day. And my wife kind of looked at me with a side eye when I told her that I still want to keep the trip on the books. And anyway, I was able to keep the trip on the books, went on the trip, and had a great time. And I've
Killed
been
a big
feeling
buck, too.
better and better since.
Killed a big deer, if I remember right, too.
Yeah, killed my biggest deer to date. It was a good time. I was, a little nervous. I think it's just like anytime you get injured, whether it's you tear a knee up, or you have a replacement hip or something like that. You kind of, you treat it gingerly, right? You sort of, the doctors are saying, "Hey man, go, like, hit the gas. Let's see what you can do. Let's start recovering." And you have a hard time just kind of getting back on track and really kind of regaining that confidence, I think, that you can do it. And so, there was definitely a good bit of that out of the gate, but that has continued to sort of slowly kind of go away. And as I've gotten, more and more back into exercising and all that, and as well as back into a lot of my, it's winter time. And so I, do a lot of hunting and, getting back to the camp and going hunting and all that. It's the confidence is starting to return. So
yeah. So a point about that I just want to reflect on real quick, and then a shout out for both you and Trey here, because I think first off, I think one thing you really nailed down well there is that we're talking about a test that we do with a lot of our patients, a screening test to look for premature coronary artery disease. It turned out you had much more than, early disease. It was
right.
more advanced. But what's interesting is you said, so much of what we look at in the traditional medical setting is based on symptoms, and you weren't having any
Right.
symptoms, right?
Right.
And that can happen over time as these plaques slowly accumulate, and they may be more advanced than we think. And you're still going about your daily living. You just did a VO2 max the same day
Right.
you had that test, right?
That's
So
right.
you were able to exercise. So we're seeing these symptoms of chest pain and exercise intolerance that that we classically think of with coronary artery disease. So I think that drives home the importance of these kind of screening tests at this age, as you guys mentioned where you're at. And then second thing, man, as you said, you and Trey, huge shout out, man. Y'all made the best use of like that time you had in between. Because if I remember right, y'all were doing some coaching. I think you lost like 20 pounds.
I was going to
in
bring
the-
up Jeremy did a lot of amazing work on the nutrition front during that time, because you know Jeremy typically during a pre-op post-op phase, folks are relatively sedentary, and I remember us talking, and you know you were going easy, and you know had some reservations about pushing the heart rate up too high. We were working in conjunction with your cardiologist at that time, still making sure that you know you were cleared for the activities that we wanted you to be doing, but you were staying mobile, and the nutrition was great. And I think you know simultaneously both you and Kylie were making headway on nutrition and lifestyle around that time. I mean, I think you know both of you have had the body composition changes you desired. Probably still some room to go, as we all do. You know, right? We still have a few percent left here and there, but you know, I think if maybe you could both take this question, Kylie. We've been talking to Jeremy for a minute, but where do you think you've seen the biggest shift in a lifestyle kind of pillar that we talk about? Has it been around nutrition? Has it been around your movement? I know, Kylie, we've seen improvements in your sleep significantly, and resting heart rate, HRV, things like that too.
Yeah, I think it starts with just having more knowledge of what affects what, what goes in your mouth, or, I think Jeremy and I are both pretty decent about working out. And, with me, it's, what actually I am putting in my mouth. Like, it's usually not an issue with, too many calories. I think Jeremy would kind of go off and do, the hunting trips and end up, going up here and then losing it and going back up here. And I think that's one of the things that he's pulling from this. And for me, it's more of, wearing the monitor, understanding what my body absorbs better, and what it may, I think I'd always kind of figured out that I was gluten intolerant, but doing some of the testings, the gut testing, and that was an eye opener. So some of those, as well as just recommendations, buying a sauna has been a huge change. That routine helps me, just adding that sauna, adding the tart cherry, and a couple of different things that, we all talked about and you guys recommended. Man, it allows that sleep to happen so much easier. So
yeah, you made
small tweaks.
I was gonna say you made a pretty significant shift in the early time of us working together around the evening routine that paid a lot of dividends. And I always find that when someone gets their evening routine dialed in, or their kind of sleep habits, and improves their sleep architecture, their deep sleep, their REM sleep, the efficiency of their entire time in bed, that the daytime lifestyle pillars come easier, right? And that there's science behind that, but being able to make more easily being able to make good decisions around food and having the energy to exercise in the morning definitely comes easier when you have that evening routine dialed in.
Yeah, and the MRI for me, picked up some things inside of inside of my head, and then that led to going to seek a ENT specialist, and then having surgery on my nose and deviated septum. Just a bunch of things that inside probably, and I still hear myself. I think Jeremy said it sounds better, but I still feel like I'm a little bit nasally because it's only been about 3 weeks. But just being able to breathe, I think I was like probably 75 or 85% blocked on the right side, and that hopefully just continues to get better. But it's amazing what you can do when you actually get full breath in both your nose, both of your nostrils.
Yeah.
That was a recent development.
Greatly.
All
Yeah,
the
that's a huge. I mean, and hopefully that leads to not having to go full CPAP and for the sleep apnea and just being able to use some sort of orthodontic appliance or something that just opens up the airways because it sleep the CPAP machines and stuff, they don't work for me.
Yeah.
I'm still getting the oxygen I need at night. I'm still the oral ring that we've applied that into our daily, and that's helped out as far as just being able to gauge how well I sleep. And so I'm sleeping well. I think there's more improvement with the nightly routine that can continue to happen. There's definitely still more improvement on nutrition. I need to include a lot of that, some of that. I think you were calling it just, increasing the heart rate, getting
the higher intensity or sprint interval training in. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you mentioned at the beginning of the call, Kylie, you said meditation in the morning. Are you you doing some of that now?
It's so funny because Julie and I mean, from the Southeast, and Jeremy, we kind of look at each other and are like, I mean, come on, like, are we going to meditate? So we went to the other.
We meditate by going out and killing things.
Yeah. we went to the other Asheville, which is called Sedona, and learned how to meditate. Julie and I did, and we came back with just this understanding of how peaceful it is and relaxing. So we actually do a little bit of the meditation. I do a fair amount of that in the sauna, just kind of combining that.
Mm-hmm. It's a great place to do it, the sauna. Yeah.
That's my favorite suggestion to make from a habit stacking standpoint is if you want to do some breathing exercises, breath work, or a meditation, just getting it done in the sauna, especially for busy entrepreneurs and executives that, nobody wants to waste time. And meditation can feel like that occasionally, especially if you haven't felt the benefit of it. But if you're stacking it you're going to be spending time in the sauna anyway, that's perfect, right?
Use it.
Might as well do it then.
That is stacking.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use that.
Did you guys? We've joked a little bit. You referenced the sauna, and I know we've played around with you guys, putting in a sauna in your office, the workspace, and that's just an example we've played around with. But I wonder if there are any aspects of what you have picked up during your journey with us that are translating over into the workspace, either personally or with employees. If you're, seem like you're advocating for things differently than you did before, maybe.
Yeah, I think people see things that Jeremy and I do. They definitely take notice. I'll come in with a a bag full of things. And sit at the table. Somebody will sit there with us, and I'm over there eating, pumpkin seeds. Well, what are you eating pumpkin seeds for? I'm like, I got to get my fiber in before I go eat my lunch, so that my glucose is not spiking, and so there a lot of times people will feed off of some of the things that we do that along together, which is kind of cool having a partnership like this, because I might not do as much research, but between the two of us, we're coming across a ton of knowledge.
You can figure it out.
And then we share it. And it's kind of the same way with a lot of our employees. They'll see some of the things that we're doing, and they'll come in and ask questions.
Yeah, there have been, just off the top of my head, there's, 2 or 3 employees that we have that have gotten much more serious about their health journey, and, have gotten much cleaner with diet, and started losing some weight, some significant amount of weight. And so, again, as owners of the company and leaders of the business, really in all aspects of, how we carry ourselves, I do feel like this has really shown through, and been really a good lead for a lot of the people in the company that kind of see us doing, living how we live, and working on being as healthy and making, longevity a real focus. And then, the other thing I think of is here at home. My wife has always been very healthy and fit, and like Kylie said, I've typically kind of been on a roller coaster. I gain weight in the wintertime when I spend all my time at camp, and then
spring, summer, I'm just grinding and killing it and, eating everything perfect. And, that in and of itself is not all that healthy. So I'm lucky that I do have a family and wife specifically that's very supportive, that is, as I'm learning and working with you guys and the nutritionist, that we're bringing new stuff to the table and, throwing out old stuff and bringing in new stuff. My kids, my two sons don't like it very much. They're always, oh, what's it like? Some new healthy ice cream or it's the healthy kind of French fry. Everything's like the healthy. Oh, is this the healthy version? And but long term, yeah, it is. That's the answer.
Yeah.
But they'll be better for it. But being able to do it at home, a lot of people I don't think are lucky enough to have the support at home, which I think makes it extremely difficult. Callie and I are both blessed with wives that are very supportive, and we're on the same trajectory in terms of mindset for health and wellness, and we're definitely lucky in that regard for sure.
Yeah, one thing I would add that you guys have a huge advantage of, and you both touched on it, is the community aspect that you just have with one another, right? And
Right.
just to throw it out there and encourage folks to try and find that community for themselves. Wild Health as an entity, has built a culture that is very supportive and community driven, but at the same time, it's nice to have people in your life on a day-to-day basis that you share desires and, kind of a similar mindset with that help promote healthy behaviors, because there's a ton of fun ways and enjoyable foods and, fun ways to spend your time that do promote health and wellness. So, I think you guys have done an excellent job of that and continue to support each other in that.
Yeah, it's important to have accountability friends, partners. We have that with you guys. We have it, with ourselves, and then there's a few other people that folks that I can think of that we've got close relationships with, that we've talked about being accountability partners, and so it just is what it is. It's part of that, I think, natural progression in life, and part of that maturation process of learning about your health and then taking it serious, and then unfortunately for somebody like me, you find out that something is actually really wrong. And so now you got to go deal with it. Right. And I forget how the saying goes, but it's like, if you don't make time for your health, it's going to make you take the time, or it's going to force you to take the time at some point. And, it's going to be, you're generally going to be in a position you want to be in. So having that accountability, Cal and I are super lucky to have one another, and we feel blessed to have y'all part of the mix as well at this point too. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. Jeff, you got any other parting thoughts, or Jeremy, Kylie?
I got one more question. Jeremy may have just kind of referenced it, right? But something I wanted to ask you guys for any of our listeners, that are leaders, busy CEOs, entrepreneurs. What do you have just one or two pieces of advice that you would throw their way?
Well, I think you like what Jeremy mentioned earlier, was people like us are always seeking for that quick fix, that that one pill that they can take. But I think taking the time to put something like this in, we always talk about, hey, look, we need to create our C-suite, or our our advisor team or family office, whatever you want to call it. We would suggest that they need to add this health piece to their team. That's kind of what we were sitting around going, hey, who else do we need to put in this advisory team to help us get from here to here? And what we were missing was the health and wellness. So I would say, if they look at it through that lens, being an entrepreneur and a business owner, they'll see it and they'll go, oh, okay, that makes sense, that I need to add that to my team.
So I think I hear you saying you guys like hiring someone to be the CEO of your health, having someone step in.
Yeah. I mean, you got all the different things. You're trying to build out a C-suite. You might, we can't afford the risk officer right now, but let's get the technology officer, or let's get the marketing individual. I mean, most people have controllers and CFOs and HR, but when they start adding that third or fourth or fifth C-suite, they're generally not going, hey, I need to add somebody to the mix that's going to take care of me. Versus, all of the outside things that, hopefully bring the dollars that will allow you to afford to do this. But I mean, going back to what, Jeremy went through, we had a number of friends that were like, man, at the beginning that I can't afford that. But when they found out what happened and what he went through, they were like, oh, I'd spend that. 100%. I'd spend that, 2 or 3 times over. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think for me, continuing with the, with the same program next year is a no-brainer for me. So,
Yeah, I would say, I was going to go to the same place. A lot of founders, entrepreneurs, business owners are very similar. Most folks are type A's. Most folks, feel like they can do it better than everybody else, and a lot of times have a hard time delegating, and they become a hindrance to themselves in terms of scaling their business because they're not able to get out of their own way, right? Outsource the things that other people are better suited for, while they either go drive innovation, or they go drive scale and growth, and or go drive sales, or whatever it is that they're really blessed at doing. And so the health and wellness is no different than any of that other stuff, right? So because we're the type of people that have a hard time saying, sort of turning the keys over to somebody else, I would say, back to what Kylie just talked about, was you gotta do it, man. You gotta put a team together. You gotta break down, and you gotta bring some folks in that have the knowledge that that you're just not going to have, because it's not your specialty, right? And so you bring those folks in, and you want to make sure they're smart and they're good at what they do, and they're professional, and all that kind of stuff. But once you kind of get beyond that, you got to really trust in that process. So,
yeah, I love it, man. We didn't even prep you with that question, did you? Did we? Y'all just came right out with it. That's great. It's great to hear. It feels good on the provider end too. I know Trey feels the same way, to to be entrusted with someone's health like that. And so it's a mutually beneficial arrangement for sure. And we appreciate having you guys on the team with us. Yeah. So, guys, it's been a pleasure. Trey, any closing thoughts from you, man?
No, pleasure to speak with you guys as always. It's like Jeff said, it's a mutually beneficial arrangement, but more than that, it's just been a joy to get to know you guys. I'm glad we did this podcast together, and look forward to being able to talk off air and continue to make some jokes and have fun with you guys as we improve your health.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good. We're looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much, guys. Yeah. All right, guys, we'll see you next time on the Wild Health Podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for listening to the Wild Health Podcast. If you want more daily health education, be sure to follow us on Instagram, which is filled with health optimization how-tos, grocery shopping lists, guided breathwork posts, myth debunking, and so much more. You can find us at Wild Health MD on Instagram.